Kia ora, high pressure with us as we end the week, but we have got some wetter and windier weather back towards the South Island for Saturday. There are some severe weather watches and warnings already in place, but you can see for Friday, we've got plenty of clear sky. Not a bad looking afternoon pretty much across our country. We are going to find a little bit more in the way of showery weather just springing up across the Bay of Plenty, but as we head through in towards the night time, that high pressure becomes the dominant feature across particularly the North Island and the top of the south to keep things pretty dry and pretty settled for many of us as we head through towards the early part of Saturday. Temperature-wise, overnight tonight, lows on the North Island, perhaps down to around about 9 degrees Celsius there through parts of Tairafti, similar to what we'll see down through parts of Otago and Canterbury. As we head through towards Saturday, high pressure slides up towards the North Island, perhaps an odd shower in towards the Bay of Plenty first thing, but fairly light, and in most of the time it's dry and fine. It's the activity down south that's the real one to watch out for. Stronger winds ahead of these features, perhaps even reaching gale force for a time through parts of Southland, Otago and Canterbury, even severe gale in the most exposed areas. And you can see these fronts bring plenty of wet weather on towards that western coast, places like Fiordland, Westland, and also in towards the headwaters of Otago and Canterbury. So there are some severe weather watches and warnings in place, with the heaviest rainfall on those western coasts, particularly through Fiordland, and up in towards the ranges of Westland as well. The strongest winds through parts of Southland, Otago and the Canterbury High Country, really for that second half of the day, Saturday, and through in towards the very first part of Sunday as well. This watch you can see for Marlborough, Wellington, Wairarapa, those are for those early hours of Sunday morning with those strengthening northwesterly winds. But let's start with the easier island with the forecast for tomorrow. The North Island, let's be a pretty decent day. We'll have a bit more cloud through the Bay of Plenty, perhaps down towards Rotorua and Taupo, just to start things off. Perhaps an isolated shower there. But for many of us, it's a pretty decent story. Plenty of clear sky through the daytime, perhaps an odd shower springing up about the ranges. But for many spots, I think it's a fine, dry and pretty settled looking day with some temperatures doing quite nicely as well. Highs back to around about 22 or 23 degrees Celsius and still pretty warm through the night time as well. Just watch out for the winds perhaps increasing a touch as we head through towards the end of the day through the likes of Cook Strait. And we are going to find those winds increasing as we head in towards the early hours of Sunday morning around Wellington and Wairarapa, and we have got that watch in place for you. But really, Saturday is looking like a pretty decent day across the North Island. Down south, that's where things change. As these fronts push in from the south, they'll introduce more cloud and wet weather. You can see for Canterbury up towards Nelson and Marlborough, a great start today. Plenty of clear skies, staying dry. And I think for most of Canterbury northwards, it's not a bad story. We will find those winds increasing. It's once we head down towards the south, that's where we find that heavy rainfall feeding towards Westland, swilling across in towards Southland and Otago. And you can see as we go through the daytime, that rain runs northward. So up from Fiordland into Westland, in towards Buller as we go through the day. And some of that rain will be pushed across by those strengthening northwesterly winds in towards parts of Otago and Canterbury, in towards the headwaters there, about that main divide. And like I say, we have also got those warnings for winds through Southland and Otago and the Canterbury High Country from very much around about midday through those southern areas and about, say, 3 or so in the afternoon on Saturday through the Canterbury High Country. And in those areas, we could find gusts of wind perhaps up to around about 120 kilometres an hour in the most exposed areas. So well worth keeping an eye on the forecast, but the wettest weather on that western coast. Now, as we go through towards that Sunday, we are going to find a bit of a change, but for Saturday, we've still got that warm air, and we've still got some pretty decent clear skies across parts of Canterbury and Marlborough. So highs here, 27 degrees Celsius, where you've got those cloudier skies down towards the south. It's a little bit cooler, but I think really the temperatures are the least of our concerns in those areas as we go through Saturday. As I was saying, as we head in towards Sunday, this front continues to move northward. So overnight, we'll find that rainfall moves up towards the likes of Buller, and also in towards the North Island as well, in through Canterbury and up on towards the North Island for Sunday. So we are going to find wetter weather moves on towards the North Island. High pressure builds back in towards the south and things become drier again across the South Island. So it's a fairly short-lived affair, but still pretty intense for that rainfall on the western coast. You can see though, by the time the front's moved on towards the North Island, it's a much weaker affair, but we are going to find some wet weather back with us for the North Island to end the day on Sunday. And like I say, we have still got those watches in place for parts of Buller and also parts of Marlborough, Wellington and Wairarapa for those early hours on Sunday. The other thing to notice will be some cooler temperatures down south. We go from highs around about 26 to about 17, 18 degrees Celsius for places like Christchurch. Not drastically cold, it has to be said, still a pretty decent story. But I think it's worth keeping an eye on the forecast. We are going to find those temperatures rising for the likes of Napier and Gisborne, but some wetter weather up here to end the weekend. That's it from me. There's more at metservice.com.